Hello, I'm back again. It's Karen here, and this is Lily Lulu. I'm back again to do some more work in the fairy journal, this one. And if you watched my last video, you'll have heard me say that the next step was sewing the signatures in, and that I was going to do that off camera. Well, I lied. It's the same day. And I've got the bits out to sew the signatures in, and I thought, no, I will do it on camera. So I'll show you what I do to sew my signatures in. And the reason I've come back on camera to show you, or to do it with you, not to show you, is because I'm doing something different in this journal. The journals I make are usually 4 signatures. And this journal, although I've used the same number of pages, I've divided it up into 5 signatures. Don't ask me why, I can't remember. There was a reason why I did it. I can't remember what it was now, but it made sense at the time. So I've got to do everything a bit different to how I normally do it. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge. And I thought, let's just go for it and do it on camera and make it even more of a challenge. So this could all go horribly wrong, but hopefully it will be okay. And hopefully we will still have a quiet Max, because he was very good in the last video. So I'm hoping that he's going to behave himself. So I've done a little scribble of where I think I need to mark this binding to sew everything in. So what I'm using, this is a piece of Tim Holtz paper, and I've cut it 3.5 inches wide. This is what I'm going to sew my signatures to. And the height is the same as the inside cover pages that I made. Can't remember what the height was. It is, let's check it on here, 8 7/8 high. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and do that now. So the first thing I'm going to do is score this. And as I say, I've got a little bit of paper in front of me scribbled with where I need to make my marks. I hope it's all going to work out. I might have to put that next to me because I can't read it from there. So I believe I need to score at that is half. So the first score is at 3/4 of an inch, which is there. And then I want another score at the same point at the other end. That's half, so that's 3/4. And then I think I'm just going to do this with my ruler and mark the lines that I'm going to be sewing on. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, and I need 16ths, so I do need my ruler. So I need to score from that. Right, so I'm going to mark the. Sorry, I can't talk and think at the same time. So that was my 3/4 inch there, and that was my 3/4 inch there. So I'm just marking where I've just scored, and then I'm going to pop my ruler in between those 2 score marks, and I'm going to mark up 1 inch, because that's going to be my centre signature, because I've got 5 signatures. And then I'm going to mark it at 11/16, so that's 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's there. And I'm going to mark it at 5/16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then on the other side of the one, I'm going to go 5/16 the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1 and 11, so that's another 11. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's there. So if I mark the same marks at the bottom, and then I'm going to just join them up lightly with light pencil marks. So we scored at 3/4 of an inch in from each side, which is there. So again, I'm putting my ruler in the middle, marking at 1 inch, and then I'm going to mark 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/16, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11/16, and then the same on the other side of the centre mark. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/16, 1, 2, 3, no, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11/16. So I'm just going to join those marks up. Can't even see them now. Oh, it was on that. That's right, it was on that. I'm just going to draw a really light pencil line, and that's going to tell me where the centre of each signature is going to be sewn in, so that they're all hopefully straight when they go in. Oh, that one didn't work at the top. Oops, it's there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, as I say, this is not a tutorial because, as you can see, I'm waffling away to myself, but at least you can see my process and how I do it. Now, you probably cannot see those lines at all. I've just, oh yeah, if I hold it up close to the camera, you can see that's just really light pencil lines. I can rub them out afterwards. So that is where each of my signatures is going to be, and I'm going to do a 5-hole pamphlet stitch. So if this is very conveniently 8 3/4 of an inch tall, I want to find the halfway point. So that will be 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 3/8. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 3/8 there. For 1, 2, 3, 4 and 3/8 there. So oh, I keep marking this paper and then I can't see the marks. So I'm just going to, again, really lightly with pencil, going to mark on each line, each of my sewing lines. These are the lines that I'm going to sew the signatures on. So I'm just marking the centre point of each of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's where my centre hole is going to be. I hope this is making sense to you all. And then I'm just going to, for ease, I'm going to put my ruler on the centre point at the 4.5 mark, and I'm going to go 1.5 inches up and 3 inches up. So I'm going to mark it at 3 inches, which is 1.5 away from the centre point, and then another 1.5 there, and the same the other side. So that's 1/2 and 1, so marking at 6, and then again at 7.5. I'm going to do that on the other side as well of the 5 lines. So I'm on my 4.5, I'm going to go half, 1 and mark it at 3, and 1.5, mark it at 1.5, and then from this side half and 1, mark it at 6, and then 1.5, mark it at 7. And again, I'm just going to when I can see them, join those up again. So that was 1.5, that should be there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and up here somewhere. And a half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the same down 1.5. Where are my marks? There they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a bit tricky on this paper because of the pattern. Some of the marks are really hard to see against the pattern of the paper, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now, where each of these lines cross is going to be where my hole will go for sewing the signatures in. So we've done that. I'm just you know, starting to ease the score lines so that they will be easier to fold when we get to that point. So now I'm going to take my awl, which is somewhere in this box. That's needles. Come on, awl, oh no, it's right there. And I want my book that I use for stabbing. This is my stabbing book, as you can see. I used to have an old catalogue that I used to use for stabbing, but again, in the move, I don't know where that's gone. So, right, so on, as I said, where each point now where my 2 marks cross is where I want a hole. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the first signature. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the second signature. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the third signature. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the fourth signature. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the last signature. Now I know a lot of people don't go to all that faff when sewing their signatures in, but the journals that I make, that I anticipate are going to be kept. So like the ones I've made for my grandbabies when they're born, and this one, you know, because it's for a birthday, I imagine they're going to be hanging around for a long time. So I use the 5-hole pamphlet stitch, and I'm quite careful because I want it to be right. Even though it is a junk journal, I want it to be sturdy, I want it to last. When I'm making things like my memory book, which is just for me, or something that I feel may not be as permanent, you know, I'm a bit more doolally. You know, I can just eyeball it, just use the 3-hole pamphlet stitch, just eyeball where everything's going to go, and it's usually fine. But as I say, if I know I'm making something for somebody that I believe is going to be some sort of keepsake, then I want it to be a bit more sturdy and I'm a bit more particular. And that is more like my nature. I do like to do things properly. I like them to be right. It's one of the reasons I'm making junk journals, is to try and let go of that perfectionism. But when you're, you know, making something that someone's going to buy, and junk journals are not cheap to buy, then, you know, you want it to be right and you want it to last. So most of my journals I do end up using the 5-hole pamphlet stitch, and I do go through this process to make sure everything's straight and lined up and proper, or as proper as it can be with me making it. So that's my lines gone now, and anything that is still left there slightly is not going to show once all the signatures are sewn in. So right now, what I need to do next is to make holes in each signature. So I'm just going to go through these one at a time and make sure, before I do anything else, that all the pages are in the right way up. You know, anything that's... I don't think I've used any papers in here that are different sizes. They're all basically the same size. These book pages are folded to the same size. I've still got the clips on, you know, where I folded them to keep them where they need to be. So I shouldn't need to worry about anything not being caught by my stitching. If I'm making a journal that has, you know, maybe the page is only this big, I need to make sure that it's going to be caught by at least 2 holes where possible, to make sure that it's not going to fall out. So but with this journal, as I say, all the pages are the same size, near enough, you know, as close as they can be when the paper has been tea dyed, baked in the oven and ironed. You know, every sheet of paper is going to be a slightly different size because it's been through those processes, so it will have shrunk at different rates. So, and obviously these printed ones have not had anything done to them, so they may well be slightly bigger than the tea dyed pages. So, and that's the reason why, or I should explain, the reason why that my printed pages are not on tea dyed paper is, surprisingly, my printer doesn't like it. My printer is very, very fussy. My printer's a diva. It doesn't like printing any more than 1 page at a time. I have to feed it 1 page at a time. As I say, it's leaving marks all over the place at the moment, which is driving me insane. I'm just making sure that all these pages are pushed right into the centre fold, and I'm clipping them. Yeah, so, and it definitely does not like tea-dyed paper going through it. You know, if it's not normal, basic, standard printer paper, if it's too thick, if it's too thin, you know, it doesn't like it. It's not happening. So I used the ivory paper to print the printables on, so that it blended with the tea-dyed paper. You know, it doesn't look exactly the same, but at least it blends in. It's not obviously a completely different colour. So that's my pages clipped together for the first signature. Now I have this template. I really need to make a new one to make sure that my holes are in the same place in every signature, and these holes are all 1.5 inches apart, the same as on that we've just punched on the spine. So you can see there each hole, and I always have this to hand. When I was first learning how to do pamphlet stitch, I always had this in front of me to remind me which way to go next. So if you want to copy that for yourself, take a screenshot now, and you'll have something there you can refer to. So this is going to go into the middle of my book so that I can punch my holes, sorry, in the middle of my signature so that I can punch those holes. So I'm just going to clip that, move that clip, move that clip down and move that clip down. So I've got that in the middle, and where's my stabby book? And I get my stabby book and pop my holes now in the signature. So I'm just going through, just popping my awl in, you can't see my hands in the way, popping my awl in the hole, but I'm doing it like this. I'm going straight down, and I'm just making sure that I've come through. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see the little point has come through there? I'm just making sure that's on the spine. So I'm going to do that for each hole in my template. And it doesn't have to be, you know, you don't have to make a giant hole. It's just so that your needle has a route to follow through the papers. So now that's that. Now the next thing I need to do is to decide what I'm going to use to sew my signatures in. Now I tend to use, I have got here some, oh actually, I've got some waxed linen thread, proper bookbinding stuff. How about that for fancy? That's in the same sort of brown that I've been using for the stitching. So I'll probably go with that. I was going to say what I usually use is, I was a cross stitcher originally. That was my my craft of choice for a long time, and I usually use cross stitch threads, embroidery threads, and I was going to use this colour. This is what I had in mind, but because I used to straw all my threads like this, they were all cut to the right length to fit in here, and that's too short for binding my signatures. So I always have a problem, you know, I want to use up all of my old embroidery threads because I don't really use them that much anymore. But unless I've got a new skein like this, most of them have been cut too short to use, and that one is obviously going to be too short. So I'm not going to use those today, but that is what I do usually use to bind my signatures, because I have it, so why not? And obviously I can always find thread to match what I am making, to coordinate. Now the other idea I had, my mum gave me, my mum was having a bit of a sort out, and she gave me a bag of metallic threads that she was getting rid of, and in there, oh I think it's here, was this gold, and I thought, oh, that might be nice to bind the pages together, because that's another little bit of sparkle going on in the book. But it's really, really thin. So I think it will probably just tear the paper. Let's see if I can get this plastic off and just check exactly how thin it is. I think I've cut the thread as well. Never mind. Because I was thinking, oh, I don't know what to do with these, because when I've used metallic thread in my sewing machine before, it's not really liked it. I mean, all my machines are temperamental. Oh yeah, this is fraying. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be any good for binding the pages. I don't know, maybe I'll do a test at some point and see how it goes, so that I know for future reference, but I've got a feeling that that's going to tear the pages, so we won't use that. And then the other option is crochet thread, which a lot of people use. And I did, you know, I've done crochet, I've done knitting, I taught myself to crochet, I've done knitting, so I've got lots of different yarns and threads that I could use. But now I've seen this, which I forgot I had, I think I'm going to go with that. But there's just, you know, different options there. If you are new to junk journals and you don't want to go out and buy all sorts of different things, you don't have to have all these gizmos. You know, for most of junk journaling, if you've done any sort of craft before, you can repurpose things you already have. So I'm going to do about 4 times the length of my signature, which is far too long, but I want to have leftover thread to either tie into bows or put charms on. Now, I really do want to put some charms on this journal, but I've really only got silver charms, and all through the book, this book, I've used gold accents, so I'm not sure what I will use, but I'm going to leave the threads long so that I've got the option when I come to look at that to either tie a bow or to put a charm on or to make some dangles or something, I don't know. So I am well aware that I'm wasting a thread. This is far too long, but it's deliberate. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it. So now I've made sure all my pages are the right way up. I've made sure they're all ready to go. So now I just need to find my needle. Now I do have some bookbinding needles, because I bought, I'll show it to you actually, I bought this little bookbinding kit. I lost my pokey tool when we moved, so I wanted an awl to use in place of my pokey tool, and by the time I'd bought an awl, I might as well have bought this little kit. I've got an extra bone folder in here, there's an extra ruler, there's a glue brush, and all of these lovely bookbinding needles, but they're quite thick, so they leave quite a big hole in the paper, which I'm not keen on. So what I've got here is one of my cross stitch needles. So I'm not sure if you can see, but the point is quite blunt, so it shouldn't split my thread, and it has quite a big eye, so in theory it should be easy to thread, she says, well aware that she is on camera and filming. So that's what I usually use for sewing my signatures in. Right, I'm going to attempt to thread my needle. Yes, done it. Right, now what I'm going to do now is slide my clips off of my template, because obviously I do not want to sew my template into the middle of my book. which I have done in the past. And I'm going to, because I want my ends to be in the middle of the book when I finished, I'm going to start in the middle of the book. So when you do a 5-hole pamphlet stitch, you can go from the outside in, and that means your ends when you finished will be on the outside. So it just depends on, you know, the look you're trying to achieve. So I'm going to start off popping that through there, and I'm just going to pop this end under this clip so that I can't accidentally pull my thread all the way out. So we've gone in the centre hole, and then we're going to go in the first of our holes, the one on the far left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to attach the signature to our binding. So we're going to go in there. And then we're going to go up to the second hole, making sure we're still on that first line. It's very easy to have a wonky signature, to start on one line and cross over to another one halfway through. And then I'm going to go back into the second hole. Into my signature, hopefully. Now, if you find that you can't get your needle in, if you go from the inside out, the way you poked your hole, you can usually, you know, just re-establish that route for your needle to follow, and then it's sometimes easier to go back in. And obviously you want to make sure you are coming up into the middle of your pages. So that's the second one. Then we're going to go up to the top hole and into the top hole of the spine. You can see I've come all the way through. Putting that through, and then we're going to go back down to the second hole. And we want to try and make sure, now you can just go through your binding first and then go back through your hole in your pages. And you want to try and make sure as you do that that you don't split the thread. Oh, Max is coming to say hello. There you are, look. This is the one. This is he who makes so much noise when we're videoing. Good boy, jump down. Jump down, good boy. Jump down, good boy. Yeah, you want to make sure when you're coming through back through the same hole that you don't split your thread and come through your thread, because then you'll find it difficult to tighten everything up when you finish sewing. So we've come back through number 2, and now we're going to go down to number 4. So we're missing out the centre one where we started and going back down to number 4. My needle has come through. Oh no, it's fallen out again. So back into number 4, and again find the hole number 4 on your binding. Pull that through, and then we're going to go down to number 5. Bet you didn't see that coming. Oops. And again, I think here I just need to come from the inside. Sorry if this is confusing you as I'm whipping this backwards, forwards, upside down, back to front, inside out. There we go. Sometimes you just need to, you know, change the angle you're working at to make it work for you. So we're coming back in. We're coming in to hole number 5 for the first time. And then we're going to go back to number 4. And again, we want to try and make sure that we don't split the thread. And coming out on the back of number 4, And finally, guess where we're going? We're going back into number 3. And again, we want to try and make sure we do that without splitting our thread. And then what we also want to do when we come back to where we started, we want to end up with our 2 strings on either side of this center string, and that's so that we can tighten everything up and tie it. Now, I've obviously left this one a bit too short, but it doesn't matter, we'll work with it. So now we want to tighten up all our strings, tight enough that they're all secure, but not so tight that we damage our paper. So I'm just literally easing each one. Just try and make sure they're all nice and tight. Let's take the clips off. We've got one either side, so that's all right. Now I'm just going to check the back and make sure that they're not too loose. That one could do with a little bit of tension still. Better. I have a really horrible habit of being too heavy-handed at this point, and I do make my holes a bit bigger than they should have been usually. Right, I'm just going to tie that with a double knot so it's secure. I'm obviously not going to need that much as a dangle, so I'm just going to snip that off. And then what I do is just go through, and I don't need my stabby book at this point, and I just fold each page. Just to get them laying nicely, let them know where they're going to be living. Get them comfy, tuck them all in. So we end up with a nice, neat signature of pages. So now that I've done that first one, I will carry on record. Now you see with this page in the tea dyeing process, that's got damaged. You see that little tear? I don't mind that, but I may do something there to reinforce that, just to make sure that the journal does last and that that page doesn't rip completely. So I'll probably put something over the edge of that page to reinforce it where that is torn, and anywhere else I see through the journal, as I'm finishing it off. So yeah, as I was saying, that's signature one in, attached to the binding. So I will carry on now and sew the rest in. I'll continue filming, but all being well, I will fast forward it when I upload it to YouTube. Getting a bit fancy now. I don't normally do editing. I record, you get what you get, and it goes up. But I will try and fast forward that bit, and then I'll come back to you when I've got all these in. Okay, so hopefully there will be a bit of Benny Hill action now, and I'll be back with you shortly. Right, that's all done. Now, the eagle-eyed among you will have noticed I had a lot of problems with the 5th signature. I sewed it in upside down and I split the thread more than once, so that had to come out and go in again. I wonder how many of you were shouting at me as you were watching me do that. Anyway, it just shows we all make mistakes and very few of them are not rectifiable. So that's all in together now. All the signatures are in together now, attached to the binding. So my next stage will be to glue that into the cover. So that will be glued either side, and then we will add the inside cover panels that we made the other day. And then it will just be a case of finishing off the decorating and getting it ready to go. So that's where we are so far. So I hope you found that useful and interesting. Thank you again for joining me today. I really do appreciate your company. If you have any questions or comments, please do leave them below. If this is the first time you've watched one of my videos and you've liked what you've seen, please do consider subscribing. I mentioned a couple of videos before that I've scanned some tea-dyed paper that I am going to be giving away as a freebie. I haven't forgotten about that. It's just that I am under time pressure to get this finished and the next journal finished. So that will be coming up at some point, and I will let you know as soon as I have got that available for you. But that is just having to take a back seat for the moment while I get this and the next journal finished, because I say they are for birthdays, so they do need to be ready on time. So thanks again for joining me today. I will see you all again very soon. In the meantime, take care. Bye-bye.